of knowing.
All right, man. Welcome to the CRROW777 live stream. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope you're holding up under this kind of level of crazy we've never seen before. A lot of things going on in the world. We're going to talk a little bit about the big events that are going on right now. Welcome, Jason.
Good afternoon, Crow.
So I took a drive up to New Hampshire. I guess it was yesterday, wasn't it? And I picked up a new Shiba Inu puppy. So on top of everything else, I have a new puppy to take care of.
That's awesome. I saw a picture of him, and he is quite the adorable dog. So Crow's got a new member of the family.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a few dogs that you bump into that are clearly smarter than most other dogs. One way you can realize it is if they recognize things in a mirror, although more and more breeds are doing that. Some dogs will also notice animals on a television. But as the neighbors are walking by, this dog just looks them dead in the eye, and they're all taken aback. He's 8 weeks old. I named him Blix from the Swedish meaning of that word. But yeah.
Well, what shall we talk about? Maybe we should first get out of the way. How did the people who you got the puppy from react to beer bug nonsense?
Well, that's quite interesting, actually, because we got up there and it was like they bred shepherds and Shibas and I think probably horses. It was in a part of New Hampshire that's all farm, or used to be all farm. The last mile was down a dirt road. Lady came out with no mask, so I said straight away, "Are you cool or are you worried?" She looked at me and she said, "Oh, please." We went into a very small room to see 3 Shibas, and that's that. We were literally a foot away from her, and so I finally said, "It's nice to be in a place, where there's someone brave with common sense." And she goes, "I've had it up to my eyeballs, but what's more is we have neighbors that are in their 70s, so that's the demographic that's been targeted here. That's the idea behind people over 65, because those are the people that often park in front of the television. Since this has started, I would guess I'd say at this point, every channel has been screaming the same message, to the point where as I went to backtrack, I realized that within a week, I marked the beginning of what we're going through for us here where we are in the United States on March 11, 3/11. Within a week, all the commercials were queued up to echo this nonsense. But my next door neighbor, who's older, came out to talk to me because he saw me in the backyard with the puppy trying to potty train him. And the first words out of his mouth was, "I've about had it with this COVID crap."
I love the sound of that. Hey, why don't you take a moment to tell people what kind of dog that is in case they're not familiar, because I saw a couple things in the chat room.
So it's called a Shiba Inu. It's SHIBA, new word INU. It comes from a town of the same name in Japan. I don't think these dogs were known in the United States until post-World War II, when the GIs started to come home. Some Shibas came with them. Part of what's going on with the Shiba is they're very bright dogs. If you see pictures of their face, you'll feel reminiscent of the dingo. You know how the Australian dingo, also another old breed, have that kind of Asian look in their eyes, and you know what I mean when you look a dingo in the face. They have that kind of sense about them. But the thing about Shibas is they're tough as nails, and they're not big. Most of them are not very big. But they can go to something like 20 below, and they can handle 110 too. So whether I'm in Rhode Island or California, that little guy should be good to go.
That's awesome. So one of the things we would really like to talk about is the fact that people are indeed getting really tired of this beer bug nonsense. I'm quite sick of the topic. It's oh my God, I've just really had enough of it. I'd love to talk about something else. I'd like to talk about, I don't know, NASA being a bunch of shits or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's more fun, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, at some point you got to get topical. I think it's good for us to use the live stream to get a little bit topical, because we've been using our show to try to help the mental facilities of everyone enduring this. And in my neighborhood alone, I'm aware of people who have kind of lost it, being locked up for, I don't know, where are we, 7 weeks or something like that. Literally, we've had emergency crews in because people are at a high level of stress, not sure what they're thinking, but they're probably buying into this on some level, but they're feeling like a caged animal, kind of. So if we use this for topical, I'm good with it, but we're not going to use the main broadcast to echo this nonsense endlessly. We're going to try to offer mental tools to lift above it and to counteract. Basically, from my point of view, your mind creates this reality. And at the foundational effort that we're seeing everywhere is creating a mindset that doesn't need to be described. I'll just simply call it fear. That fear is creating our reality right now. But what's more is we're starting to see huge numbers of people that are just not buying it, which is unusual. Because normally we see the same people, the people who are trying to wake up, the people who are aware, but now something different has gone on. The overreach is crossing lines, crossing demographics. The older people who watch a lot of television are catching on. And not only that, Clive DeCarl, who we will have on soon, sent me a clip showing, I think it was the PM of Italy, basically screaming, literally screaming nonsense, saying 25,000 people have not died here. Those deaths were heart attacks and cancer. Go look at the numbers. Another gentleman from somewhere in Africa, I've forgotten where, doing a similar thing, where he said, we swabbed a goat, came back positive. We swabbed a sheep, it was indeterminate. We swabbed a cat, came back positive.
And a piece of fruit. Let's not forget that one.
Someone swabbed a pawpaw, the fruit called pawpaw, and it came back positive. So the overreach here is astounding, but I suspect that overreach was planned into this. And I suspect that at some point we're going to see a push for loss of order. Because that would allow a more iron-fisted response. So from my point of view, losing order is the lowest thing on the totem pole. That is the one thing that should be avoided at all costs. And we don't know where this is going, but my point is Jason, I don't know how long I'd been doing this when I met Jason. I started about 2013. By the time I started talking on the podcast, I don't think you could pull more than a handful of my episodes that are in some way, shape, or form were not pointing to what started on March 11. We could see there's a tee up here. It's not hard to see, and I would say it all the time. There's an end game. I don't think we're in the end game, but the tee up is far behind us at this point. So all that time, there were just small enclaves of people who got it, and then there would be enclaves of people who listened to what we were saying, and then they would start to get it. This time, something wholly different going on. People are catching on across the board as far as I can tell, and it's going to be one hell of a ride to see how this all plays out.
Well, what I'd like to do, since we have a nice-sized chat room now, is anybody who actually knows something about their respective areas, put it in the chat with the @SecretsOfSaturn thing so that I can see it and bring it up, because I pulled some articles, and the first one I'm going to start with is actually a little old now, considering it is the 10th of May, and this is from the 2nd, but this is right here in my current home state of Louisiana, and it says about 250 protesters showed up at the governor's mansion on Saturday, which is last Saturday now, demanding that Louisiana immediately drop the restrictions put in place to slow the spread of the beer bug and allow the unfettered reopening of businesses and churches. Now, both of those things are very important here because this is Bible Belt, obviously, and people take their Mr. Jesus very, very seriously here. And there's a lot of people getting very upset that they cannot attend services because a lot of people don't even just go on Sunday. They also go on Wednesdays. And they have meetings on top of that.
Let's address that for a second. This is why you're never going to hear me downing a religion in this world. Right now, the people who have a spiritual path, and I don't care what that path is, what we find in human beings is a lot of people will give up a number of things, but very few will give up their spiritual beliefs, even at the point of a gun. And we're going to need this kind of bravery and these staunch commitments right now. And there's another thing that we should mention. There's no defending what's gone on here. The Constitution has been trampled on to basically put people on house arrest and then to try to force them to wear all these things. They're indefensible in a court of law as we once knew it. We're starting to see, and Clive DeCarl sent me another video of people pulling going into court for the first time to begin challenging this. I think 3 of the videos I saw described their first appearance in court as a kangaroo court, where it was pretty clear the judge had been directed to do what he did. But nobody's very worried about that, because what we all know is there's no precedent. There's no law on the books, and this seems to be cross countries, that allows the kind of overreach that we've seen here. And this is going to be part of the ride we're all about to take. At some point, we're going to realize very quickly, do we have the courts we once had, or was that part of what just changed? And so you really got 2 choices. At some point, a judge or a court has to admit the facts, the true facts, that this is all illegal. Or they're going to have to lie and break every other rule on the book. I really don't see any options. But sorry for interrupting, but I think these are important points to think about.
All right, well, we do have 2 people who've already put in the chat here. Let's talk about that real quick. Eric DeLion from Louisiana. He's somebody that I've become friends with. I've spoken to him quite a lot. He's here in Louisiana. He says the least we can do is email the governor of Louisiana, so you can go to the main page and do that. Jay Armstrong says South Carolina is reopening, including dining in restaurants today. That's a new one to me. I didn't know anybody was doing that yet. Let's see.
That's critical. That's why it's so important what you're doing here, Jason, because so many people think Michigan is the only state that stood. Sorry for interrupting again, but this is important.
No, I'm totally with you there.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be opening up, funny enough, on the same day we're closing on the house that Rose and I are buying, which is the 15th, and I'm really afraid, especially after what Eric told me yesterday, that they're going to jack this another 2 weeks at least and start putting in some heavy restrictions again, which...
I suspect we're going to see... Yeah, I think we're going to see an attempted 2.0 version of all this nonsense in September. Be surprised if we don't see it, which is why what we're talking about is so important now.
Right, and I'm going to actually address that in a minute. Judy S. says, I am in Texas, and we are officially open for business, but a lot of places are afraid to reopen for a variety of reasons. Fear of workers and fear of liability, to name 2. Now, here's the big thing about that. I couldn't even go to Texas, which I like going on road trips, by the way, if anybody doesn't know that. I like going places and visiting people and things like that. And I couldn't go to Texas unless I wanted to go spend 14 days in quarantine for crossing the Louisiana-Texas border. So guess what I wasn't doing? But that was pulled a couple days ago. So I know our friend Trey Clark has been asking us to come visit him in Corpus Christi. We go and visit Randy from Houston every now and then, who's a good friend of ours, and I'm not going to get quarantined just to go see friends.
Wow, someone just posted that in Ocotillo Wells there was a 4.4 earthquake. For people who don't know, I'm a native San Diegan, so I know exactly what they're talking about. Ocotillo Wells, like if you left San Diego and headed due east and went over the mountains, that first desert that you hit is Ocotillo. Why it's interesting to me to see this posted that they just had an earthquake was when I recognized that earthquakes were misdescribed. It was on, I think it was 2010. I don't remember the year, but it was Easter Day, so it's not hard to look up. That was near Ocotillo, just south of the border in a very barren part of Mexico, where they were showing a couple cracked buildings, and the architecture there is very old anyhow. Point is, it's one of the longest earthquakes I've ever been through, this Easter Day earthquake. It went on for about 2 minutes, but it was so not natural, I can't even describe it. And so whoever posted that, thanks for posting that, because the fact that with what's going on now, that we're seeing another earthquake in a barren place like Ocotillo, to me is very interesting and bears looking at.
All right, we got a few more here. FEMA Region 4 says, also there was bands in bars and people buzzing with it. I'm not sure where that is, though. Terrestrial Mac, several counties in Pennsylvania are opening up tomorrow, whether the governor likes it or not. Absolutely love to hear that. FEMA Region 4, also all the breakfast places were packed out the gills in Myrtle Beach. I forget where Myrtle Beach is.
Myrtle Beach, if I'm not mistaken, is on the East Coast, not far from Florida. Someone can correct me if I've got that wrong.
John N. Here in Alaska, we are submitting a redress of grievances and a resolution. Completely unconstitutional. This is all nonsense. I'm with you, John. Guitar Guy Bear. I am in Los Angeles. The mayor and the governor here are blocking beach access, so many people are protesting it. Yeah, I don't doubt that. That's a big part of your life there.
And also another unconstitutional move, but some of those are going to get loopholed in, like if it's a state park beach and stuff like that, it's going to be a hard hard row to hoe, but nonetheless.
Yeah, Karen B invited Rose and I to come up and stay for a couple days up in, I think she's in North Dakota, if I remember correctly.
Oh wow,
Yeah, she said she'll make it accessible for Rose. So
big sky country.
Well, she lives in the country and apparently has a really beautiful place, like land and all that. So that'd be really cool to go visit her at some point in the near future too. But we got to get this house thing settled first.
You want a P1000. If you guys end up going up there, you can see so much sky. You need to do the sunrise sunset thing with a P1000 minimally.
Well, we got that because John, our friend John, is awesome, and I have one because of him. Let's see, Gnosis Gnome 7. Ontario is slowly opening. We are having an In Power Movement conference call tomorrow. Awesome. Very glad to hear that. Let's see, do we got anybody else before we move on here? Let's see, Jay Armstrong, South Carolina is Myrtle Beach. Oh, okay, gotcha. One for All says, lots of military aircraft in the sky, Birmingham, UK. Yeah, I've been hearing things like that, especially in Colorado. Lots of military moving around. Sue Escobar says, I am in Sacramento, California. 3 counties are bucking Dictator Newsom's state lockdown and trying to open. Also,
nice.
Another Placer County in Northern California is pushing back big time. Good.
You can almost tell by the name of a place, but go ahead.
Myrtle Beach is just south of the North Carolina-South Carolina border. Got it. Okay. Amanda says, in Australia, slowly opening up here in Queensland. And I think I got everybody for the moment. I can... let's see, Eric is saying Louisiana legislator has passed the resolution to override the Louisiana governor emergency powers if he doesn't open up the state quickly, they are saying. So we will see how that goes down. I saw that article the other day. I think he's the one that sent it to me. So thanks, Eric. You've been awesome helping me out because I just don't have time to do everything and produce the amount of content that CRROW and I do.
This is, let me point this out. We've got a few hundred people live right now. And so what we can do is, if you're part of this and you know something's going on in your area, put it in the chat. Jason and I will try to cover it. The point is 500, 600 people, they talk to people. The net that goes out from there gives a much more accurate view than many people trying to get an accurate view who think Michigan is the only place. It's going on all over. So if it's going on in your area, post it, please.
Right. By the way, I'm reading from the YouTube chat. I can't follow the D Live very well. There's just too many of these GIFs jumping all over the place, and it's just impossible to follow. It hurts my eyes, literally, to see all these colors and things jumping all over the place. So my apologies. I look at the D Live sometimes, but I just can't follow it. If there was a way to turn the GIFs off so I could just see text, I'd be able to follow it no problem. But my apologies there, but I just want to let everybody know. Rhino, thank you for the super chat. Just left the grocery store. Didn't follow the one-way squares on the ground in the aisles. Not to worry, the shoppers were policing everyone. Of course they were. California is still hosed right now. And also, Rachel New York Truth, thank you for the super chat. You're awesome as always. Looks like we got a few more. Najib, here in Morocco, you could see that even the police have had enough and sick of implementing all these mandates. Man, that's great to hear.
I'm hearing a lot of places that are not so kind of claiming to be first world, which is becoming apparently untrue. I've heard of a lot of places where not only the police, the military, and the governments have had just about enough. And I'll tell you another thing. When you see a world takeover, which is what this is the largest coup d'etat ever, you're going to see some of these lesser nations that have been pushed around probably finding their cojones pretty quickly. Even Italy's doing it, calling it a bid for a dictatorship based on ridiculousness. But one thing I'm wondering about too, as people are posting, if you're seeing people protesting or going back to work while you're posting that in the chat, also I'd be interested to know when you folks go out in the stores, is anyone showing up in stores where no one's wearing a mask? Are we to 50-50 anywhere? For my part, I have not put on a mask since this started.
Nope, me neither. Never haven't bought one. Don't own them. They can go rot. Kiki says, in Norway, we were given some liberties back on Friday. On the same day, Norway celebrates its liberation from Nazi Germany in 1945.
Oh, my word.
How about that?
Oh, my word. God, the irony there is, wow.
Oh, apparently, Billingtano says I can turn off the GIFs in the live chat. I'll have to figure that out. I'm not going to do that while I'm live on the air, but thank you for letting me know that, because that's awesome.
Yeah, really. I might actually go there if we can take the Vegas off it.
Yeah, I don't know why people just, it's like spamming almost. But thanks, guys. Tricky Woos, turn off the stickers. Yep, I'm gonna look at that. Let's see. Free energy seems like all the more South conservative. Oops, my chat just jumped on me. Seems like all the more South conservative, religious, constitutionalist states are the ones opening up. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me though. The southern states not putting up with nonsense is pretty common. Let's see. Sean Becker says, Avon, Ohio, people have masks and are social distancing, but a few commercial chains open Tuesday. As far as I know, tomorrow, I know of one place here in Louisiana. It's actually a little place that Rose and I like to go to called a Beta Roasting Company. They're going to do, they said, between 25 and 50% of capacity, but they're going to try and encourage people to go outside because they have a pretty big patio just so they don't even have to deal with the social distancing nonsense inside. So good on them. At least they're doing something, you know?
Look at California. Anyhow, I'm seeing that no masks in central Kentucky, about 5% wearing masks in Alberta. I assume that's Canada. Mask free, trying to keep up here. It goes by so quick. I'm trying to copy them out and paste them, Jason.
Let's be practical. Thank you for the super chat. Wandering Wild Woman, New Hampshire. Most are not wearing masks. See, this is awesome. We're doing this in real time. I'm really, really happy that people are actually responding in here because I've been very curious to see from people who are actually in different areas what things are like. So hopefully this is helpful to people. Probably more so than me just reading articles and things. Beth Martins.
This is undeniable, and there's probably 1,000 people all told if we add up all the platforms. So the information hub here that fans out, it makes a difference. Go ahead.
Beth Martins, hi. Good to see you. We did an illegal demonstration in Winnipeg yesterday, and it was totally peaceful. Police were there, but no pushback. Everyone on their best behavior. That's good. Nice, peaceful Canadians. I like to hear that. All right.
Looks like 50% are wearing masks in Rapids, Minnesota. Trying to keep up here. 60%. Let's see.
Janet, thanks for the super chat. Just saw that come through. Let's jump down here. Okay, Kevin says some Michigan auto assembly plants are soft opening tomorrow and this week. Good. Here's the big thing and why we're saying this. Man, we can't shut down, no matter whether the money's fake or not, and we all know it is. Anybody who's got even a little bit of higher-mindedness knows that the money's fake, but it's still the thing that makes the general day-to-day functioning of our lives work. And if we don't have it and people don't have it, it's a problem. I mean, what else can we say, right?
Well, it's also the root of all evil. I can't tell you the number of reports where people have sent what hospitals are being paid for diagnosing, admitting someone that they can say has the beer bug or labeling beer bug on a death. If I remember correctly, it's $33,000 for a death labeled in that way. So when you're paying a place $33,000 for everything that gets labeled that way, what do you suppose the outcome is? Now you know what the PM of Italy is screaming. Those people died of heart attacks. Those people died of cancers. He's screaming, go look at the numbers. So yeah, money is a real thing, but look at the corruption and how easily it was caused. They've based, there's another side to this we should all be paying attention to. Apparently, as this happened, the central bank started flooding every other central bank with dollars. When you take a dollar, as we have seen, I've seen people estimate that the TARP bailout that everyone screamed about, that amount of money since this started has been being spent every few hours. When that happens, it's going to be very interesting to see what we're calling currency at the end of all this. I'm just saying, in a normal world, that would instantly devalue everything to zero. But at the same time, we all fake like it has value in the first place. So it's hard to know where this is going.
By the way, if you want me to read this, make sure you put the @Secrets of Saturn so it illuminates in orange so I can see it, because sometimes the chat jumps and I can't follow it when it's going too fast. Jay Armstrong says, I was out and about a lot, including Walmart yesterday, and only saw 2 folks wearing masks, upstate South Carolina. I also went to Walmart to get some groceries yesterday, and I would say it was about half and half people wearing masks, but they have not made it mandatory. There was one local chain that was making it mandatory to wear masks. As soon as I saw the sign, I looked at the person, turned around, walked away, and said, you're not getting my money. Sue Finelli says, $1,000 fine for not wearing a mask. Bay Area, California. I refuse to wear a mask. Good for you, Sue. Well done.
There's a test. Watch that go to court and somebody go against it. How does that get defended? I'm just saying, these will be the keys that begin to show us what's become of our legal system. there is no court in the world that could uphold legality of a fine like that.
Let's see. I see a whole bunch of other people saying different percentages of masks, all the way from 20 up to 50 to 75%. Did I get everybody? Got that.
Anyhow, did everyone pony up about protests and only in their local area? If you're aware of protests in your local area or openings or things that matter for the sake of spreading actual true news, these matter. So just keep posting it, and we'll try to get through as much as we can and let this hub of people that have joined us here today actually walk away with a real view of what's going on in the world.
Rachel New York Truth says organized crime is not going to go for the no physical currency thing. Yeah, that does put a damper on certain things, doesn't it?
I like that idea. Wouldn't it be ironic if the mafia ended up being a problem for them?
Like, hey, Mr. Mayor, we got a little bit of a problem here. We have to keep the cash in the society. You understand? All right, we just got a bunch more in. Bruno Santos. In Portugal, we have to wear masks in the shops. Beaches are closed for sunbathing. Gyms and non-essential commerce are still closed. Wandering Wild Woman, EMT, asthma protocol, no nebulizer or CPAC. Jay says no masks in southwest Scotland. Judy S. I think just jumped on me again. Hate when it does that. Judy S. I bought a car a few days ago. 95% of the people had masks on them, in my opinion. Luckily, my sales guy had no mask. Otherwise, I would have left. He even hugged me when I left. It was amazing. Hey, that's very cool. That's nice to see. L. Whitman, Benson, Arizona, which is a podunk town apparently, is getting worse with masks, but I offer hugs and most people want one. Awesome. Very cool. Josh Mitchell says, my job is requiring me to enforce my staff and myself wearing a mask in guest-facing positions. I actually heard that about Guitar Center, too, where I used to work. My friend Jody, who works there, just told me that yesterday. They're only letting 3 people in the store. They're doing very limited opening times, and 3 people in the store. Everybody's got to wear a mask and gloves, including the 3 people they let in at a time. So, yeah, they're not getting any of my money right now.
Looks like Labyrinth of Knowledge is estimating 30% of people wearing masks in the Atlanta area, Atlanta being a very big metropolitan center.
Eric again says, can you mention that the U.S. Surgeon General is saying 4 days ago not to wear and buy any more masks could help spread? Okay, that's cool. John Franco, 50% wearing masks in Connecticut. One for all. I've seen people walking headlong into traffic to avoid walking too close to someone else. Well, you know what? Screw them. Whatever, if they're that ridiculous.
Yeah, Stefan works at Costco, and he says he's selling more plants than food. He estimates that the majority know this is nonsense, yet he sees that 99% of people are still compliant.
Georgia boy, I'm assuming that means you're in Georgia. I'm on my way to Lowe's right now. I'll give details when I get there in about 15 minutes. Rob H, not wearing masks, Palm Beach County, Florida. Cool. Karen B says, I went to Costco in Charlotte, North Carolina. Said I could not wear a mask due to medical condition. They said, okay, I went in and shopped mask-free. Awesome, Karen.
That's what everyone should be doing. Winston Smith says 60% of people estimated wearing masks in Maui, which is one of the islands of Hawaii.
Who else we got here? Brains Bruns. Central Pennsylvania's DAs and sheriff's offices have publicly stated that they will not prosecute people for not following the governor's orders. Well done on them.
Well, it's all going to come back, isn't it? When you see things like that, you're looking at a person who takes their job seriously and is thinking to theirself, hey, self, if there's any law system left, this becomes indefensible and some people are going to get sued and lose. I think that's what's going on there.
I actually brought this up to Rose earlier. There's something I used to hear Alex Jones scream about years and years ago, and I don't know what it actually means from a legal standpoint, but he was saying something to the effect, when he was doing all those protests and crap he used to do, that if a cop did something that literally violated a civil liberty, that you should go after them, not just the police force, but actually go after them personally and put the fear of God in them. It's like, no, if you violate my civil liberties, I'm going to come after you for your personal money. I'll come after your house, your income, because you as an individual are violating my rights. Now, I don't know if that's just Alex Jones nonsense or if there's actually some validity to it, but that popped in my head earlier today, and I'd like to know if there is any validity to that. And if so, that's something that we should really look into for this situation, because It seems like some cops are being cool and some are
This
doing what Jaron experienced, where they were just shoving people and arresting for no reason and all that at that protest he was at.
Well, here's the thing. People who are following the reverse liability ideas will understand a lien can legally be placed. People in jail who are brutalized by guards put liens on their homes all the time. This goes on to the point where they tell the guards not to let their identities out.
So it sounds like there is some validity to this then.
There's absolutely validity. Anyone can put a lien. You better be backing up if you do it, but that's the point. Anyhow, West St. Louis, 90% masks except for the poster. We have Rebecca Campbell from Salt Lake City. The minority is wearing masks, sometimes 40, 60, she estimates.
Let's see, where did I leave off here? Lincoln Sharp, YouTube, Sydney cops arresting woman over protesting. They take her crying child from her. Crazy. Yeah, that's for sure. All right. Let's see. Rachel says
those are the kinds of things that may result in huge losses in a courtroom if we get
that's
through
exactly
this
what I'm talking about. Like when these things go on, if you've got that on camera, especially, they're not going to win. If you can go after them, now the problem is, of course, you need a good lawyer to defend you, or to go after them. I mean, however you want to put it. But yeah, I think I would like to look into this more if at all possible. There's got to be something we can do that if you have police who are literally violating your civil rights, whatever country you happen to be in, hey man, that's it. Let's go after them. Let's hurt them where it really does hurt, in the pocketbook.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Thank you, Paul Martinson. He states, just ask a person who's wearing a mask, why are you not wearing goggles? See if you get an interesting response.
That's funny. Yeah, everybody's going to start looking pretty steampunk soon if we don't be careful. Jay says, trying to say can forcibly medicate and vaccinate in England. Not sure how this works without written constitution. Yeah, I don't know either, man.
Well, you have a Magna Carta. Actually, Jason and I are going to have a couple fellows on who understand the American Constitution and had to know it because apparently Australia's Constitution was drafted from it. They're pretty knowledgeable, and I think we'll end up talking a little bit about the Magna Carta.
Yeah, very likely. JL DiBiase says, in Germany, 5% masks outside, but you cannot enter a store without. Security won't let you in the store. Big protests throughout the country yesterday. Yeah, good.
So we see a trend here. I think it's safe to see we see a trend where people are getting fed up. So let's ask the obvious question to everyone listening. How many people feel like there's been a step forward in the positive direction? And how many feel like they're stuck just right where they have been for 7 weeks? Let's get an interesting dichotomy going here. Let's see if the majority of people feel like progress is being made and people are getting fed up, or whether the majority of people feel like the compliant sheep are still complying.
Well, that's a thing. Okay, we've got a bunch more coming in if we want to keep
Go ahead.
throwing this out. We left off at Tom Such. Auburn, California, hair salon opened and faces fines. I'm going there tomorrow to get a haircut. Well done, Tom. Excellent. Love to run for life. There's a 77-year-old barber in Owasso, is that Michigan, who is taking a stand. The militia is taking turns guarding his storefront to keep him open. That is awesome.
That is there's home of the free and the brave.
Yep.
There's a person who's exercising the fact that we have certain rights that cannot be messed with. And by the way, go look at I think it's 1903 or maybe it's 1906, called the DICT Act, DICT. Everybody go look up the DICT Act and share it. Basically, your rights to bear arms are ironclad and cannot be messed with at any level. These are the kinds of things that you're only going to find in Michigan and Arkansas and the middle of the country, where people still act like the New Hampshire flag, my favorite flag, live free or die.
Let's see, we have a question from Najib. Wanted to ask, logically speaking, if Bill Gates won't live long enough to see the elite's goal of the New World Order dystopian world, what's his benefit of pushing it so hard? Well, it's a family thing. You look into who he is and where he came from, and you'll see that he's not at the top rung or anything like that, but he is definitely one of the family servants, maybe you could say, to the bigger families. It's all part of the game.
Sorry, I had to clarify that.
All right, so we are. See, Amanda says This is in Australia. Masks not compulsory here, but still see about 25% wearing them. Kay says, unlimited outdoor exercise and sunbathing allowed from Wednesday in the UK. Live what you do. She is from Liverpool, UK. Hello, you're from Liverpool. Let's see. David says, I just saw David here somewhere. Our friend David Weiss. And this thing keeps jumping and I keep losing it. All right, let me go back.
I know, the thing speeds by.
Yeah, I have to keep flipping it back up. So my apologies if I miss anybody. These things go so fast sometimes that... Kiki from Norway. No masks in Norway either, as that would be bad for your health according to the officials. Yeah, it is. But people are very keen on the anti-back, thereby finishing off whatever the antibiotica hasn't.
Let's ask our Norwegian friends. You guys aren't that far from Sweden. What we've heard is that Sweden never locked down and never did anything draconian. As we know, many of the masters of the universe live in Sweden. Do you people in Norway have any view of the fact that Sweden never did lockdown on the tail of this? I think it's the only place in the world making that claim.
Judy S. is bringing up David Weiss's ADA video. If someone says they have a medical reason for not wearing a mask, the ADA doesn't require that a person disclose why. Yeah, David's got cards, and I know he's in the chat here. If he wants to post a link to that, that is totally cool. Let me see. Did I make David a moderator so he can post stuff?
I don't know, but David sent me that, and from the outset where I am in Rhode Island, that was one of the stipulations, that people couldn't mess with you if you made that claim, which is a bit ironic. Considering that if you wear a mask all day, you've tripled your carbon dioxide intake.
Mamoti Z, it was Mother's Day here in Finland today and saw plenty of people visiting their grandparents and parents. Also haven't seen many masks, probably 5%, and those on women who are alone. Cool beans.
Someone's posting Sweden as self-policing by suggestions. My point being is businesses weren't closed, is what we heard, and that there was no kind of draconian implementation of things. Not only that, it was claimed that Sweden said to the rest of the world, we're going for herd immunity. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, we're all referred to as the herd now, just to be clear.
This is interesting. Free Energy says Adam Curry from No Agenda Show said they made him sign a waiver saying he hasn't tested positive or known anyone who tested positive before he ate a steak in Austin. I'm pretty sure that's the Adam Curry that everybody who is not 10 would know from MTV years ago. I think that's the same guy who does that podcast now.
Oh, is that right?
I'm almost positive because I remember someone mentioning it to me ages ago and I completely forgot. But hey, if he does something that's kind of on the awake side, maybe we should hit him up. You could be on MTV News with CRROW777.
Yeah, good on Raven Wolf 7. They're only supposed to go 50 clicks. She went ahead and did 200. Good on you.
Jordan McCraw, TD Canada Trust is requiring you to download an app and check in with it before you enter the branch. Wow.
Who's doing that?
Canada Trust. That's a bank. Rob Bouchert, Missouri, St. Louis, lockdown extended, other counties opening. Lincoln Sharp, YouTube, Sydney. Okay, we got that one. Yep, we got that. Dakota Hall. I live in Texas. 80% of the people in the stores me and my fiance went to, nobody had a mask on. Only one store asked us to, and when we said we don't have one, they still let us in.
Well, funny thing about Texas, a lot of people refer to Texas as a republic. There's a whole different mindset going on in the state of Texas that there are in many other places. If you're a local Texan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And everybody in Texas knows that there's always a thought in the air that Texas is going to secede from the Union and be its own country.
David Weiss said, Paige and I were the only people without masks in the Home Depot and grocery store today. There you go. That's the one I was looking for that got lost in the mess here.
My wife and I pulled over at a feed store from getting the puppy. By the way, we crossed 3 state lines yesterday. Massachusetts, part of Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. And there was hardly that much traffic, nothing unusual about crossing the state lines. But after we picked up the dog, we realized we're going to have to stop to go potty. So we pulled into a feed store. One person, she was probably in her 70s, was wearing a mask, and everybody came over to see our puppy face to face.
Wow, so it's all psychological, man. I mean, think about the implications of that. They stopped being afraid the moment they saw an adorable dog.
Right. Even the lady with the mask ended up, after interacting with us, she was out unloading a truck, she took her mask off in the parking lot. But this is part of the problem, because if you are over 65 and you grew up thinking you could trust your government, then there's truly going to be a concern in the back of your mind that your age group is targeted. It's just difficult to show them how it was targeted, not with an actual threat, with fear.
Let's see. Eat More Bacon says, I just left Lowe's in Hutto, Texas, which is just outside of Austin. 95% masks. G's Fun Song. Can you recommend an affordable solid top acoustic guitar? Obviously, a more important. Yeah. I could recommend a Taylor BBT, or if you need the electronics, get a BBTE. Somebody was kind enough to help me out with that, and I've been loving it and writing songs and really getting back into my music as a result of it.
Maybe somebody should record the mandolin so you can take that BBT and put some guitar on it.
You know, I think somebody should do that. Yes, indeed. Let's see.
Thank you to Joe R. I'm trying
Right in
to catch
California,
this.
10% masks. All right, we just got a bunch more came up down here. Kiki in Norway says, were you guys aware of the NATO exercise which took place alongside the outbreak of the beer bug in Defender Europe?
If you not in Defender Europe, there were 19 nations outside Wuhan that I was aware of. I wasn't aware of that. Hold on, I'm copying these, Jason. So go ahead.
Check this out. We haven't spoken to him in ages. Our friend Chris Van Maitre, who was doing the sun work like yours.
Oh yeah. Wow.
He says, started a new job about a week and a half ago. Everybody there shakes hands. Nobody wears masks. Even in my interview, shook hands. Nobody wore a mask. Really nice atmosphere in Houston. That is awesome. Oh, he's in Houston.
Good to see you, Chris. Hope you're getting some time to get behind the solar scope. I haven't. By the way, let me catch up. Joe R., thank you. All I've heard about the last 2 decades were the dangers of carbon emissions. I guess people wearing masks are just reducing their carbon footprint. Yeah, but not in their own lungs. Also, the Reperception podcast, I think it is. I copied half of this. Adam Curry is credited as the founder of podcasting in 2004. I feel no agenda really. I'm getting lost here. I didn't copy anyhow. Thank you. Reperception podcast. See, it looks like keep looking. There's an agenda.
Yeah,
no
that's
agenda really.
That.
Okay, yeah, I got part of it.
I see a couple more super chats came in too with some questions. So thanks for all those folks. Kylie of Darwin, sanitizing stations are a bigger problem. People do not understand what that is about, and the number of people that are using them is scary. Yeah, you know, you can't destroy your body's capability to deal with stuff. That's why anyone with half a brain lets their kids go out and play outside instead of sanitizing them and sticking them in a bubble. I mean, that's just freaking ridiculous. Matthew Northey, agree about 25% wearing masks in Australia. Albus Dumbledore, oh, what's going on at Hogwarts? They are still complying, and they will celebrate the government as a savior. That's why they have to end it soon, at least for this season. I do wonder. You know, I know, I could tell you this, there are contingency plans for the fall. This thing's going to happen again, I'm almost positive, and maybe how far they take it in the fall is going to depend upon how much we rebel now. Let's just throw that out there.
Yeah, there's going to have to be something else combined with supply chains or something. I can't imagine. I've said over and over that they've got to get Iron Fist before the end of the calendar year. After we pass the low point of the sun, there's going to be a window that's closing. But right now, as it appears to me, I'd be very surprised if they could pull a 2.0 with nothing else piled on.
Okay, let's get down here.
All right, I got this one. Kyle of Darwin. Kevin Hansen, sanitizing is about cleansing for a sacrifice. It's also about the sign of Virgo, which is next to Leo, the sun. Did I get that right? I keep trying to copy these and I get half. Speeding by.
David Weiss says people here jog and bike ride with masks on. They are lost souls. Yeah, that's for damn sure. Jordan McCraw, mandatory app download to enter. Oh, we just did that one. Okay, sorry. Rob B, Sweden already is chip population. Yeah, that's horrifying to hear. Let's see. 00 Silverback. New Jersey is getting fed up. Once the beaches open, people will be 100% fed up. David Wolf says no mask. Well done, David Wolf.
McCallion, check out Solutions Empowerment Non-Consent. It's an amazing place to know common law and your true man or woman's rights. There are forms that you can mail to the leaders and claim your true freedoms. Works everywhere on earth. So that would be solution. Here, I'll just take the word and put it in the chat.
Let's be practical. Thanks for the super chat. Says, my wife said she would wear a mask to acquire what I need since I refuse to wear one. God bless her. Well, it is what it is, right? Let's see. Our friend Brian says, turn off your TV, radio, and internet and tell me if you see a pandemic. Bingo, Mr. Elwood there. You just nailed it, my friend. Absolutely.
Yeah, you might think if you're going to crash the world economy, there might be bodies stacked up to the ceiling, wouldn't you? Wouldn't it take some really incredibly horrifying event to see the shutdown at this level? All it really took was some money paid to hospitals to lie on the death certificates.
Man, I still haven't seen anything. I've had 2 people in my family that tells me they know somebody who had it. That's the closest I have come to anything even resembling of this being a reality. The rest is all just freaking nonsense. Joe R., thanks for the super chat, says, all I've heard about the last 2 decades was the dangers of carbon emissions. I guess people wearing masks are just reducing their carbon footprints. Yeah, by breathing it back in, and it's bad for you. Reperception podcast, we got that super chat, so thank you very much. Cody, thank you.
Carry it for 2 seconds.
Just bought the Universal One after listening to the Walter Russell show. Thank you for the info. Yeah, if you can, folks, if you're into the Walter Russell material, try, if at all possible, if you're going to buy something, to do it through philosophy.org. They, of course, are the organization that keeps up Russell's work, and they're suffering too because people can't go to the museum, so all they've got is just whatever books they can sell and things like that. So, Michaelian, thank you. Check out Solutions Empowerment Non-Consent. It's an amazing place to know common law and your true man and women's rights. There are forms that you can mail to the leaders and claim your true freedoms. Works everywhere on earth. Cool. Very good to know.
Also, thank you, Jason Gay.
I do apologize again if we run out of time and don't get to everybody. I'm trying to go back through all of this.
Here we go. Cody says he just bought the Universal One after listening to Walter Russell show. Thank you for the info. This is what I'm talking about, what Jason and I have opted not to kind of scream and echo all the fear porn. In my view, if you look at a book like the Universal One, it gives you a way to reset and to refresh and understand that there actually are probably real ways of describing where we exist that we've been denied. And I think that helps counteract the nonsense we see going on. It does me anyhow.
Right, yeah. By the way, I don't know how people are responding to the Walter Russell material. Let us know if that's something you want more of, because there are some more things we can do in that vein. And I'm personally behind the material, and obviously this was CRROW's thing first. He brought it to my attention, and I started really digging it. So if it's something you'd want to hear more of, we just don't want to overdo it and do too much and when folks want to hear other materials. So we've got other things in the works, but if you want to hear more about Walter Russell and the very interesting ways he proposes cosmogony to be, we are more than happy to continue in that vein.
Right. I don't think I read any really negative on almost any episode we do. There are going to be a number of people who it wasn't their favorite, a number of people who it was. But the Russell material, both of them, Matt Presti and Durham Cullum, they both kind of hit a vein. Not only that, I've seen people, some of the really bright people who follow us, I'm getting ready to do some of those experiments. And that will almost certainly reflect back into the forum and echo out. But yeah, I'd be interested to know if people are digging any more of that. If we do it again, I think we should go at actual nuts and bolts things that maybe people can get involved in. Also, Sans Memetics, thank you.
By the way, I see the other fellow asking about music stuff again. I am going to start a separate channel because I am opening my own little recording studio. That's one of the reasons we're buying a house, is so that I can do so. When I worked at Guitar Center, I spent years collecting stuff to do a really nice small commercial facility, and I'm gonna do all that on another channel so that I don't have to use any of our time on any of the other podcasts and live streams and all that. So once I get that up and running, I'll let everybody know if they are interested in music and music production. I'm a big fan of the Kemper and all that stuff. I'm going to talk about that stuff there. That'll be coming pretty soon.
All right. Also, Dire Straits is reminding everyone that if you're a member of CRROW777 Radio, there's 20% off books like Universal One. By the way, these are quality books. I think they go for around 50. So 20% off is a pretty good help. And by the way, if you're very interested in Russell and you can't afford any cover price, there are searchable PDFs that can be helped. But if you can't afford it, this would be a good thing to support because, like everyone else, their museum and university were closed, which is part of the design here.
By the way, Jaron just messaged me. He was going to come on with us for a little bit to talk about the protest he was at and what he saw there. So he's on the road, but I'm going to see if this will work or not, so he can at least give us a frontline report there, because I really didn't get a chance to talk to him that much about it.
All right, I'm trying to copy these as they go. I'll carry it as you're doing it. Give me just a second here. Paul Martinson, thank you so much. Does anyone know of a non-graveled version of the Book of Enoch? You're going to roll the dice with the Book of Enoch, but the best version would be the Ethiopian translation. Also, thank you, Eric Lyon.
Jaron, you with us, brother?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, actually, you're coming through loud and clear, thankfully. So how you doing? Having a good trip?
Beautiful. Yeah, great trip. Well, I get to listen to your guys' show, so life's good. Got to listen to Walter Russell episode on the way to Gilroy, so on my way out of town, and now I'm heading back and listening to the live show. So
you must be taking garlic so that you don't die of the beer bug. Is that what you're doing in Gilroy?
All right, I'm glad you know what Gilroy is. A lot of people have never heard of it, but yes, the garlic capital of the world. I was just there. Heading back to Merced.
They tried to ruin it. Thank you again, Sans Memetic. They put a fake shooting there not too many years ago. But we got to ask you, Jaron. You were front and center at what I think was probably the state capitol, if I'm not mistaken, in Sacramento. I may have that wrong. What was your overall sense of what happened there? Was it helpful? Was it a bust? Give us your overall impression.
You know, I know a lot of people may have differing opinions on protests, but I mean, I'm a guy that thinks protest is a great idea. So I thought it was awesome. I thought a lot of people showed up. There was a good, well over 1,000 people there. And I think it's good because anytime you can show resistance to the mainstream narrative, I think it's a good thing. I think other people that see it might wake up. They just might say, oh, not everybody's buying into this. So a lot of people think we should open. So yeah, there might have only been 1,200 people there. But I think a lot more people saw it, and that might change some minds. And then on top of that, if people saw the police started pushing back for really no reason, it was a peaceful protest, and the police just started pushing back. And the reason I think so is because if they just would have allowed it to continue, and people were live streaming, people were on Twitter, I'm sure, and were on Facebook Live, whatever. I was on YouTube. If more people would have saw it, more people would have came and shown up, and that's just something they can't have. So they had to show a force. They had to go live on the news and make it look like the police was pushing everybody back and everybody's going to get everybody sick. But I'm just here to report I'm not sick yet. Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Well, we heard a pawpaw fruit got sick, so be careful out there, Jen.
You never know what they could swab and have come back. But there's lots of good information coming back on germ theory now, and hopefully people are waking up to that. You guys are doing a good job of pointing that out and really bringing Dr. Kaufman's stuff to the forefront, because people need to recognize that we've been lied to. And like I've always said, we've been lied to about things that we can test and that we can verify. So why do people think when it comes to space, outer space, things like that, of course they're lying about things you can't go verify. And when it comes to these miniature bugs that are flying through the air that we can't see, it's just another thing that they have an open slate to tell you whatever lie they want to. And imagine that, the Rockefeller led, kind of germ theory where you got to buy this medicine, it's going to make you better. And that's how these guys have gotten rich, and that's how they'll continue to stay rich, because people they're so afraid. Fear is the only contagion. You said it from day one.
Well, here's the thing, man. This is only going to go one of two ways if you logically try to break it down. And there are other options here. But the way I see this happening is they've got to go for iron-fisted control because the overreach has been so severe. I'm not sure they're going to get it, and I hope I'm right about that. But it looks to me like enough people have began to catch on to the game that you know what happens next, Jaron. You know what happens next, Jason. Once you realize a lie of this magnitude, all these other things start to fall apart. But you guys got to hear this. Sans Memetics, thank you, posted again. I have a mountain of evidence against Walmart, who I've been trucking products and stuff to. manufacturing scarcity, 100%. Masked here, except in central New York. Email me about what I have against Walmart. And I would say anyone out there who's still working that sees egregious violations of human rights in this way, you should be documenting it. There may come a time. There almost certainly will come a time. Unless we lose everything, there will come a time. Anyhow, Jason.
So I went to Walmart yesterday, and it's weird. I'm seeing things rotate throughout the grocery section of what's missing in great numbers. This time, it was butter, biscuits, and all things around baking and things like that, plus a large number of meat, which I don't buy because we're vegetarian. But what are you seeing, Jaron?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I think a lot of it's manufactured. I really do. I think it's all a ploy to keep big businesses getting bigger and keep the rich getting richer. I mean, these are the businesses that are allowed to stay open. These are the businesses that don't get hurt by requiring masks. Yeah, there's going to be a few people that fight back and say, okay, I'm not going to have my Costco membership renewed, but these companies will be fine. And the ones that take it on the chin are your small businesses, your mom and pop. And this is all by design, in my opinion. This is what they've wanted for a long time, is when this ends, there's going to be a ton of people without work, and they're going to go looking for jobs. And, where else is there going to be besides a Costco or Walmart where you're getting minimum wage, maybe a few dollars over? And these big businesses will continue to thrive. They're not going anywhere. They're not having any damage. I mean, this is the way it's going across the board. None of these big businesses are taking a hit here. They may try and make it look like they are, but they're not.
Look at the car companies. There's another tell. Anyone who's ever worked around a car company knows how critical those sales are, to the point where they pressure those salesmen damn near to death. And look at the stance they've taken. Nope, don't worry about it. You don't have to buy a car. Now they're getting around to, well, you can buy it online or you can do this. But you can see the complicity in what Jaron's talking about. And by the way, if anyone out there doesn't realize that a year from now, regardless of what happens, we'll be standing in a world we don't recognize. In a normal year, when people lose their jobs, on average, it takes someone 6 months to a year to replace that job. When you put a few million people out of work and then you destroy a few million small businesses, exactly what Jaron is saying is going to come to pass. There's going to be these horrendous big box stores that are trying to grow like a cancer across every corner of every county and control the labor force. So these are the things that are coming.
Not to mention, when you give all these workers that have been furloughed or laid off, when you give them some sort of unemployment payment, then they have no they have no real reason to try and go back to work. So it just creates more people at home saying, "Oh, I don't feel safe going back to work yet. I think you're going to be putting me into danger." Well, of course, these people are getting paid money now to sit home and do nothing. So it even creates the problem even more. Whereas if you weren't paying these people unemployment, all these people would be clamoring to get back to work. But when you pay them money to sit home, well, you're just creating more of the problem with people saying, nope, it's not time to go back. I think it's too early. Well, of course, you're getting paid to sit home and do nothing.
Yeah, this is another thing. I suspect you're going to see the push for a living wage to just be paid out to everybody. And that's going to cause problems on its own if that comes to pass, because people are going to start to question any day now, why the hell was I paying taxes my whole life if they can just cut checks and money to everybody?
Right.
Then what was the purpose of any of that? And this is the problem without having iron-fisted control. I really don't see how this spins out without iron-fisted control. I really don't. Too many people, too many reasonable, obvious things on the face of it. And I can already imagine how many people must be pissed off that they paid taxes their whole life when they just give money away like it's paper, which it is.
Well, and I was talking to Jason about it Monday, and I think that a lot of prices are going to go up. We're going to take the abuse for this. I mean, you watch at the end of this all, if you're going to fly, they've already announced that they're not going to sell middle seats on airplanes anymore, and they're not. I mean, so if people if they think coming out of this that prices to fly across the country is going to be cheaper, they got another thing coming. It's going to be more expensive to do anything. And yeah, gas may be low right now. Why is that? Well, because nobody's traveling anywhere. The second we come out of this and people start being able to move, you watch the price of gas.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's, I don't know. I mean, even if everything started to go as good as we could hope for, I don't think there's any getting away from this year. Next time will be a world that we don't recognize. 10 weeks ago, there was a world that we'll no longer exist. No matter which way this goes, we're going to be in a different spot.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if I've been asking people, do you think we'll see a time in the coming months or years that you go to a grocery store and see nobody wearing a mask? I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I think you're always going to have people who are a little on the paranoid side.
It seems like a food supply line or the loss of order, it's going to have to be something like this. Because from the amount of people, just think of the three of us, just the three of us talking right now, how many emails we see in a week between us. I'm guessing it's got to be thousands and thousands. And these are from all over the world. And I don't see, without some other addendum attached to it, I don't see a 2.0 pulling it off. I just don't. And so then I start thinking about food supply lines or loss of order. Loss of order is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. I suspect that if loss of order is the way they're going to go, they'll manufacture it if they need it, kind of like we saw in Waco.
Good point. Yep.
All right, Crow, do you guys anything you want to say to wrap her up here?
Well, by the way, thanks, Jaron. I can hear you're on the road. Thanks for taking the time to check in. By the way, I'm jealous. I went to one of the biggest garlic producers when I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, met the third-generation man whose parents brought the garlic from Austria. That was the best spaghetti. I make vegetarian spaghetti, but with that garlic from Hardneck Garlic, man, nothing like it. So I know what you just scored was worth it.
Well worth it. Yeah, definitely put garlic in everything. It's good for you. Grow your own food, and stop eating processed foods, and keep your ear to Crow and Jason, because they're telling you the truth.
We're trying. Anyhow, anything you want to add before we wrap it up, Jason?
No, I think we're good. Jaron, my friend, thank you so much for jumping on last minute here. It's always good to hear from you and get a report from the front lines. So safe trip home, my friend.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, man. As we wrap up episode 16 of the CRROW777 live stream, I will add, if you see a fellow human being in need, stop and help them. If you do not help them and you have the power to do so, you're going to have to look back on that someday and live with yourself. Above all things, treat people well. And if you see a person who's afraid, don't make it worse. Don't belittle them. Try to help them out of the hole of the fear that they've been thrown down. At the root of everything that's happened here, the people who are the most afraid are actually victims, if you logically break it down. And if you view them as a victim, then maybe you will try to help them quit being a victim. Anyhow, that's it for episode 16. We hope to see you all on Thursday. We got a good one coming, man. Cheers.
Belief is the enemy of knowing.